everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into another episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just want to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episode 4 of the She-Hulk series. So if you haven't seen that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney Plus, watch that, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from episode 4 of the She-Hulk series, it's Jon Jon Rico.
Hey,
The
what's up?
funniest thing is I can see you in the little camera before I bring you in.
You saw the light bulb click and then you saw me go for it. Yeah.
I saw the whole thing. I saw it from
Yeah.
the conception, like idea to conception to you actually doing it in preparation. I was like, that's perfect. I started laughing before they even came back to me. But
We'll peel back of the curtain, kind of like She-Hulk.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a perfect transition. Brings us into the first thing I want to talk about. How the first time we get Jen on screen, she's breaking the fourth wall. She's talking to us. And she goes, I can tell by the smile on your face, you realize that Wong is again in this episode. And everybody loves Wong. Like, I just think that's perfect. What's crazy is that the writers of She-Hulk were so, like, knowledgeable about what the reaction of this show was going to be that they put these lines in, and it seems like they're doing this week to week. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like she makes mention of, every time Wong, like everybody loves Wong, it's basically like Twitter armor for a week type of thing. Yeah. And it's just like that kind of writing, they were guessing, and it just makes it feel like they're doing these week to week, like exactly like sitcom format where they do record, some things, like some episodes are like done on a weekly basis or on like a 10-day basis and stuff like that. It's perfect reactions, but like they did these months ago. Like, and yeah. I just think that's really smart. That's really smart writing. It's really smart awareness of kind of already knowing what was going to happen. And I thought,
and you have all the shows before that kind of giving that kind of view of the landscape going into it, so you can kind of see how fans reacted to those shows and kind of use that to their advantage going into this show. And of course, it plays right into their favor because it's exactly what we're getting in reactions to the show itself, which is pretty funny.
Right, exactly. And so the only thing I have to mention, I obviously get right into it with instant reactions and references. I gotta throw Deadpool into the equation with fourth wall breaks, because every time Jen makes a fourth wall break to us in this series, it just makes me want to see She-Hulk and Deadpool interaction. Like I would love to see them both break the fourth wall, like in some project together. I just think that would be perfect.
Fourth wall break inside a fourth wall break. That's like 16 walls.
Having that as Deadpool's like introduction to the MCU would be insane and would almost be the perfect way to do it. But I think, again, solid episode. I mean, without getting into too many details, because I mean, we kind of followed one kind of main storyline for this episode. It wasn't like we kind of had a bunch of things happening. It was kind of like the one central storyline and kind of little side things that were kind of like side scenes, I guess, is kind of the best way to describe it. But basically, in this, we get introduced to a character called Donnie Blaze. So who is basically like a Chris Angel, a one of those magicians that's got the heavy eyeliner and has the open shirt the whole time, and
Chris Angel.
Yeah, exactly. And we see him doing not so good with his crowd, and he's like, all right, I got to bring in the big guns. And so we see him put on a sling ring going, okay, did he steal this? Did somebody give it to him? Is he somebody from Carmitage? Like, and after the blip, maybe was like, I'm just going to be a regular person and try to make money off of this type of thing. We don't know until later in the episode, basically. But I do like the first interaction that we get where he brings somebody up, and it just happens to be Madison, who we learn more and more about during during the episode, which I think is absolutely incredible. But it gets into basically what the episode is really going to be about. It's kind of, another episode where we have Wong kind of working with Jennifer Walters and I mean, by extension, She-Hulk, because we have somebody who could, doesn't know what they're doing with magic. They're out of their depth, basically, and they're using magic that they don't understand and they don't have any kind of control over. And I think it was a very solid episode. I think it was really good. And I think the funny parts were really funny. I think they hit, at least for me, the funny parts hit very well. And the action parts, I thought were very good too. And then we were talking about it before we even started recording that, the action was what we wanted in some action scenes, and we got some team ups and stuff like that. But so overall, I'm really, just as happy with all the other episodes so far in this series. And I'm really looking forward to, kind of what's coming up next. But Rico, I could go on forever. I know we have takeaways, we have predictions, we have everything. Before we get into all that, what were some of your instant reactions to episode 4?
Yeah, okay. So, I thought that was a pretty solid episode. It wasn't my favorite episode of the season so far, but I thought it was a pretty solid story for what they were doing. In this, again, we're talking about the situational comedy and stuff like that. Like the situation that was presented us here made for some really good funny moments as well as some really good action moments as well. But I really like that we're starting to get more and more of like the comic representation of Jen herself. How she's Jennifer herself, like as a person, is really goofy and not so confident in herself. But when she is the She-Hulk, that confidence is thrown through the roof. So yeah, I really like that we're starting to see more of that more kind of like, I guess, lustful side, that more, uh playful side of her, I guess. And I really like the dynamic between her and Wong there. Like especially where he's like, I feel like I'm your dad or something like that when he goes and gets her. That was really, really funny. Um but yeah, getting more Wong in this episode is also never a bad thing as well. I just love the character whenever he's ever in any scene with any character. I just think he plays off of everybody really well.
Yeah.
And of course, like this episode had some really cool stuff like nonstop Sopranos references off the rip, which I really loved. Like you got to hear like the theme from the show, like, oh my gosh, he's like watching Sopranos. And then when Madison gets portaled into like his room, you can see like the episode title that he's watching and everything, and of course Madison spoils it for him like nonstop throughout the show. And of course, he's not happy. And of course, I'm sure people who are watching that show for the first time are not happy with the spoilers that get thrown out in that show. I'll tell you that much. Because I watched the show for the first time like 1 or 2 years ago. I'm like, ooh, thank gosh I finished it before I watched the show because that would bug me. But yeah, I thought that was really funny. Just really great use of the humor, and the writing in the show is really great. The fourth wall breaking in this was probably some of my favorite fourth wall breaking lines in general. So yeah, I'm really excited. Like now we're like at that midpoint part of the season. So now anyone who's like got to see the shows early, like this, like we saw these 4 episodes. So now everyone's going into the rest of the season fresh. So I'm really excited to see like what is like in store for us.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I cannot wait. I mean, I know you were saying that we have 9 episodes, right? This series is 9 episodes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we are very close to that kind of midpoint. Like this episode and the next episode are kind of like the 2-part midpoint, basically. But yeah, I like the pacing. I like how everything's going, and I really I'm excited to kind of see where we're going next, type of thing. And yeah, do you want to get to some takeaways?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm gonna kick us off. I think one thing that I thought of when I watched this episode that was brought up because of Donnie Blaze and the situation, that brought Wong into this basically is that he is, out of his depth, not Wong, but Donnie Blaze using, magic. We find out that, he went and kind of started his training at Carmitage,
Yeah,
but
he's the student that just kind of left.
yeah, he just left. But so he doesn't know how to control this magic. And I mean, we see in this episode, exactly what Wong says is going to happens. He unleashes something that he does not know how to control.
Right.
And I mean, that's exactly, what Wong said was going to happen. And being the Sorcerer Supreme, he's kind of has a right to control that kind of stuff. But because it's like it's a law comedy and a situational comedy, we get the funny scene between Wong and Jen in her office, and he's talking about like the laws, like the higher laws, and she's talking about no, like the American justice system. We gotta follow that.
Yeah,
type of
yeah.
thing.
Book of
So,
American laws.
yeah, the book of American law.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it made for really, really funny parts in that. But it did have me thinking about this situation now, because we are dealing with kind of, more street level stuff. But Wong is really, I mean, he's always been like a big threat person, like type of thing, meaning like he's dealt with, I mean, he was in, the first Doctor Strange, and he was in Multiverse of Madness dealing with Scarlet Witch and stuff like that. So, I mean, he was in Endgame. Like, I mean, he's dealt with all of the Avengers level threats and the mystical threats and stuff. But now he's interacting with like street level threats.
Yeah,
like
he's never had to do like real life person stuff because he's been
exactly.
too busy trained to be a sorcerer. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's
Well, he
very,
was a target sales
yeah.
associate too, but
But that was before he was a librarian, so we
it's
don't know if
true.
he was
It's true.
training at the same time. But anyway, it's just an interesting thing to think about on how we've never really had this contrast between real life people and the superhero people type of like
Yeah.
normal. I don't mean real life people, normal humans and superpowered humans, whether it be by the mystical arts, whether it be by tech, or whether it be by like superpowers in general type of thing. We haven't had that kind of weird contrast between the sets of people, and this is kind of where we're getting that entertainment fake I want to say fake entertainment magician, and Wong, who is the Sorcerer Supreme type of thing. And I just think I'm really interested to see if they keep playing on that kind of thing, that kind of contrast between street level people and like Avengers level people type of thing, and seeing if like if more problems arise, because it's almost reminiscent of in Iron Man 2 when we had, what was it, Hammer,
Justin Hammer, yeah.
yeah, where he's trying to get the government contracts and stuff like that, so he's doing anything he can to compete with Stark Tech. And I mean, Tony Stark is a genius and made Iron Man, and by then he is Iron Man type of thing. And so it's almost like it's almost like a rehashing of that, where we're seeing that contrast between the man who's become a superhero by his powers and someone who wants to make money and profit off of something like that. So it's very interesting. It's something that stood out to me that I really wanted to talk about. And I can go on forever, but I don't want to. But the next thing that I had to mention is the post-credit scene, which I thought was absolutely amazing. And Wong and Madison, I'm all for it. Like, if they're gonna start dating, I think that would be hilarious. I love that end credit scene. I am all for it. I love when they're basically, the end credit scene is they're watching, I think it's This Is Us. They're watching This Is Us.
I don't know what they were watching. I was trying to figure
it's
it out, and I was like, I've never seen this show.
Yeah, I've never watched it, but I know enough that I think it's This Is Us. And she's just asking him different drinks.
Gin and tonic.
Wongers.
And she calls him Wongers. Like, I am all for whatever the relationship is, because I just think it's amazing and it's perfect for Wong. Like, I love that. But I also, on top
The
of
real
that,
opposites attract.
yeah. On
Yeah.
top of that, my favorite thing is how every single time somebody like calls her or asks Madison's name,
Madison with 2 N's, 1 Y, but it's not where you think.
That's like she says it in the very beginning. She says it in the courtroom. She says it like in multiple times. I love it. It's been stuck in my head since then.
Yeah.
But I just like those parts hit perfectly for me. And so that's why like I really appreciate those points for the episode. I thought they were great. They were hilarious to me. But anyway, those were some of my big takeaways. What about you, Rico? What were some of your takeaways from this episode?
Yeah, Madison is one of those kind of goofy sitcom characters that you kind of see in a lot of those shows that
Right.
kind of pops up and does her thing, gets a laugh, and then who knows when how she'll pop up again, but she might pop up again in those random of circumstances. Um, that was almost kind of where they lost me a little bit because I felt like her Valley Girl talk was like a little bit much for me because this show is in LA, so I guess it kind of makes sense that she's like that. I did like that the place that Donnie Blaze does his show is kind of a play on the Magic Castle here in LA, which is they called it like the Mystic like Mansion or something like that. They called it something like that, but I thought that was really funny. A really cool spoof on that location in general, which is like you have to dress really nice just to get in there and stuff like that to watch like these magic artists. Okay, so getting back to Jen, kind of like embracing that inner She-Hulk in herself. I really like that we're starting to get like again that more like promiscuous side of her, of course, like taking advantage of the whole matcher thing in her life, of course, when she tries to make her own profile as Jen. Again, nothing. Again,
Yeah.
I know you were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
But
When they have like notifications for no reason, like
mhm.
Why is that an alert?
100% felt that. Like
Oh yeah.
she's like,
Yeah, when they just
why do
send
they
you
even
like,
have a
hey,
notification for that? Like,
yeah. Hey, just letting you know, there's still nobody there for you. Like, oh, thank
yeah.
you. But yeah, I thought that was really funny how like, of course her friend, I forget her friend's name, of course, right now her name escapes me, um but when they're just kind of talking at the bar, she goes like, "Why don't you just make one for She-Hulk or whatever?" And she's like, "Why you calling me She-Hulk?" Or like it's like obviously
You don't
like
even like, yeah, you don't even like
yeah,
the
it's
name
really
Shield.
funny. And but of course, she bites the bullet basically and starts to make the She-Hulk profit. She turns around, it's like, I'm not proud of this either. And then of course, as soon as she makes it, bang, like the hits just keep coming in, right? And
Yeah.
then of course we get the funny we get two versions of scene, one of her doing it as Jen, where the guy's just not interested at all in anything she has to say, and then he just leaves and leaves her with the check. And then of course she's She-Hulk, she go through about three or four different guys who are, all there for different reasons at the end of the day. And then of course she falls for the big hunky doctor dude, of course. And then when that was all said and done, it was pretty messed up the way he just like, "Oh, you're Jen? Okay, I'm out." He's like, the hot doctors are just like, cliches anyway.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really funny. But another thing I liked about this episode was how they used She-Hulk in the action. You're not gonna throw her into some wild fight where she's, got to fight off, three or four guys in like this wild action sequence. Like, last week she handled them pretty easily. So there was no, again, nothing formidable there for her. But even here, like, oh, there's a bunch of demons and stuff like that. And the skin's impenetrable. So she can just kind of handle them and, help one throw them back into the portal and into wherever he was sending them, because that didn't look like the area that they came from.
Yeah, it looked like the mountains. I thought it
I
was
was gonna
like,
say it looked more like the Wondergore
yeah,
area,
yeah.
which is like, oh, okay, those people are still on Earth in some form, or who knows? Okay, but I trust him Wong that he didn't, just leave them on Earth still somewhere. Uh, but I really like the way, like, she's like, "Why am I here? What am I supposed to do?" And she's like, "Just be a Hulk," and she's like, just throws one down and
Yeah.
stomps on it, and the thing didn't die. She goes, "They don't die." And so she just finds little creative ways to like, throw them back in the portal, like slingshotting and stuff like that. And so like they have fun with her powers, but they make them useful still in a way that makes sense. Um, so we're getting that great blend of the comedy and the action, but it's still very much like sitcom first. So I'm really liking that so far.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I thought that was a great action sequence to have in there. And yeah, I'm hoping that they're slowly showing us that she's embracing her powers, and she's able to not just embrace like her personality of like the She-Hulk comics and stuff like that, but embracing powers and kind of almost, training, like continuing her training, kind of, training by doing type of thing. So that, when we see her in another project, it's not just like, well, how does she know how to do any of that? Or how does she, feel like comfortable to go up against an Avengers level threat type of thing. And we can refer back to this, like she knows that her skin is impenetrable. She knows she's fought off multiple people or multiple creatures at the same time. She knows, like, you know what I mean?
She went toe to toe with her cousin.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
like we're seeing this in a bunch of steps. And so like it's without just giving us training sequences and stuff like that, it's showing us how she's embracing her powers and she's slowly learning how to use them and feeling more comfortable using them. So that when we do see her in something where it is an action movie more so than like a sitcom with action in it.
Yeah. On a bigger scale.
Yeah. Then we it's perfectly believable because we know now that she's had that, that background there from here. Yeah, I think that's totally solid. And you want to get to some predictions?
Sure.
Awesome. All right, why don't you kick us off for predictions?
Okay, so obviously the end of the episode we have I like the way the show kind of leads us off with cliffhangers that kind of set up the story of the next episode. It's something that they do really well, but of course the end of this one has to do with Jen being served a subpoena by Titania for trademark infringement, basically on the She-Hulk name, which is kind of funny because you always get these situations where people will take other people's trademarks before they get a chance to actually file them.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, like a negotiation type thing, like, give me money or whatever. But this year she's straight up just suing her because she wants to get back at her for that fight, but she's getting back at her through these means, which is pretty interesting on my part. And I think it sets up a pretty interesting story for the next episode. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure it'll be the next episode. But other than that, like I'm kind of just like along for the ride on this show because it's every episode is just kind of like its own little adventure, and the overall connecting story hasn't really mattered so much, and I don't need it for this show so much. But there is still the underlying question of who is the boss that hired the wrecking crew, and I want to know who that is. So I think like if they're gonna give us something to look forward to, that's one of them. Obviously, we still have like cameos and stuff to look forward to and stuff like that. But if there's a bigger overall story or a bigger plan, like I want to know what the details of those plans are a little bit more.
I just had a light bulb go off. Like, oh my! I just thought of something just to play off what you were talking about. How we really want to know who the boss is. We really want to know who hired the wrecking crew. We're talking about, we know some cameos that are still coming up.
Yeah.
And one of those big cameos that is still coming up is Daredevil.
Right.
I never thought of this before. But what if the boss and the reason we have Daredevil in the episode at all is it's Vincent D'Onofrio. And yeah, what if he is the boss and that's why we get our Daredevil in the series, because he says like, I know who this is. Like we need to work together to.
I've seen that theory floated around of Fisk being involved in some form or another. I'm not sure if the wrecking crew was that or not. I didn't even thought about like someone said even he might even have control over the law firm itself. Like that would be an interesting like route to go with that. But yeah, like I think if we're gonna see them use it, it has to do with forwarding their story as well. I don't know how much of a part they'll play in the overall, because again, they want it like the Twitter armor that they mentioned in the show. They don't want that to be the whole thing of the show. They want this,
Right.
like Jen says in the fourth wall in the I think last episode of the episode without this is still my show.
Right. No.
Yeah. And so if I just don't think they'll do that just for the sake of that being like like a crutch, I guess is sort of the my way of looking at it.
Yeah, I totally understand that, but on the same in the same token of that, I don't want a Daredevil cameo just for having a Daredevil cameo, and that's why I was saying it makes his cameo worthwhile to forward the She-Hulk storyline. And I didn't even think about like what if Kingpin owns the law firm or something like that, like crazy thing like that. that, I mean, is all She-Hulk arc, but it just happens to have these two other
Right.
like major characters, and it would give us a real reason to have their cameos in there to forward the She-Hulk story type
Yeah.
of thing, instead of just having cameos for the sake of having cameos. That's
Yeah.
why I was thinking of that and how crazy it would be. I could be way off. Like I said, it literally just popped into my head.
Yeah. It gets
About it.
tricky because he does have so many planned appearances in so many different
Right.
shows that you don't know the level of importance of each appearance, I guess, is what I'm trying to get towards. But it feels like this one would be on the lower part of the totem pole as far as this one, Echo, and then his own show, because Echo is directly involved with this story already. So,
Right. Right.
if anything, I'd like to see it forward that. Like, I want to see it forward of his setup in Echo more than anything. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome. The only other thing I really had for a prediction, and like I said, that was all just I just thought of that when I was listening to your prediction, was I'm wondering if this guy who she ends up bringing home, she goes on a date with him, and I mean, Wong interrupted it, but she comes back and the night continues. I'm wondering if he is somebody associated with the boss, somebody associated with the Wrecking Crew, and is just trying to get in there and like, just doing research right now type of thing. Like,
Little recon.
yeah, doing some recon, going like, well, we know we can't take her blood when she's She-Hulk, but oh, look, she's Jen in the morning type of thing. And so maybe he's just like, I'm wondering if we see him again, is my point. Like,
Be interesting. I've noticed that one of the guys she goes on a date with is actually a former pro wrestler. His name's David Otunga.
Yeah.
And it was the first guy I saw. I was like, oh my god, that's David Otunga.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just like, if we see him again, I think he has
He does have a vibe about him. That's for sure.
It was just really like weird. Like, it was like he was saying everything like that she wanted to hear. And
yeah, saying all the right things when she was She-Hulk, but as soon as she's Jen, he's like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, dude.
Exactly. That's exactly how I felt. So I was like, I mean, it could easily just be a red herring.
Could just be just the normal dude thing, but yeah, also for sure.
So
never know.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying if we see him again, then I think there's something a little more to him than that. If that's just like a blurb of like, and trying to show us that like, yeah, he was only interested in her because she's She-Hulk, and so that's it. Like, as soon as he saw her as Jen, he was just like, okay, whatever. Then that's one thing. But like, if we see him again, there's a chance that he has something to do with the boss or the Wrecking Crew. But that's all I really thought about of the episode, except for, the thing that just popped in my head when I was listening to your theory. But yeah, it's exciting. I like
it is.
I
Fun
like
to think about this stuff.
Yeah, I love theorizing and not knowing exactly what's going to happen next, and not really knowing until we see like the pieces kind of slowly starting to come together and stuff like that. It's a really cool like series when we really don't know what's happening next. Like, we kind of know pieces, but we don't really know, and that's interesting. I like that. So, but anyway, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 4? What do you think of Madison with a Y? Not where you think it is. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you know all of our video releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.